Hi, folks. It's Andy popping in here real quick with a listener note. It is Monday, June 16th evening, and the Education Bill H.454 has passed the Senate and the House. It is on its way to the governor's desk, and he is expected to sign it. It was a little late for us to cover it in this episode, but we look forward to coming back in a future episode talking all about what it means for you, your school, your tax rate, and the election of 2026. We'll see you then. Until then, enjoy this episode of There's No Way in Creamy. Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creamy.
Vermont politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to There's No A in Creamy. We're in the skate shack for episode 6. Joanna is here.
I can't believe we're at episode 6 already.
It happened pretty fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's beautiful out.
Yeah, it's a nice weekend for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
Did
you get outside and do fun stuff?
I am digging a foundation, so I am trenching a 4-foot deep trench, 60 feet long, for a concrete pour.
Does that count as fun stuff for sure?
No. Well, I enjoy the process. I want to build this. We're building the second half of our house,
right.
And I want to get it done. And
yeah.
I want my porch. Basically, we had a house, and it didn't have a porch,
right? And
I wanted a porch, so I tore down that house, and I built another house that's going to have a porch.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I didn't just build a porch on the original structure. And there's no shortage of people driving by who stop and say, they have machines that dig.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But the problem is there's a concrete slab, and the excavators want me to break the whole thing up so that they can get in there with their excavator. And I want to keep the concrete slab. So I broke it up carefully with a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And now I'm digging down because I have to hand dig it because it's too small to get a shovel in there.
Wow.
I want to keep the concrete for the crawl space.
Sure.
Yeah.
This
is the way it had to be. And the first half of the house I did everything. I roofed it, I framed it, I blocked the foundation. The only thing I didn't do was trench the hole. And everybody asked me, like, oh, did you build it? The whole thing? Like, did you dig the hole? And I have to say no.
No, you could claim that.
Oh, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you mean in your heart you felt like you couldn't say that?
Well, no, people would actually ask me. Everybody's got like this uncle who's got to dig until they find something wrong with everything you've done. They're like, oh, you did the whole thing, huh?
Yeah.
Did you do this? Yes. Did you do that? Did you do
the
the plumbing?
God.
Yes.
It's like the third degree.
Did you dig the foundation? No.
Wow.
Then you didn't do the whole thing. So
that's so evil. When we renovated our kitchen, I mean, I feel like this is an interesting New York, Vermont difference right here. Like when we bought this beautiful old house that we live in Burlington, and we renovated the kitchen. We're telling her, like, yeah, we're renovating the kitchen. And everyone was like, you're doing it yourselves? And we were like, no. Like, we're paying talented professionals to do it for us.
Right.
Like, it was the assumption was we were doing it ourselves, and we were like, absolutely not.
Really? See, I get the opposite. I say I'm building my house, and they think I am like paying people to, build the house.
Maybe because your thing is so much more ambitious.
Ambitious is a good word. I like that one.
I mean, it is. It's amazing.
Other words have been used.
I got outside today, pruning my elderberry bush. I've been sick for a while, as you know, and whenever I'm sick, I have to live on this little drink that I call elderberry tonic, and it's basically a ball jar, and I put ice on the bottom, and I put a splash of elderberry syrup in it, and a little tonic, and then I fill it up with water. And I'll drink like gallons of that. And it's like this. So our elderberry tree has been keeping me alive for like the last 3 weeks.
It's a tree, not a bush.
I mean, great question.
Yeah.
Do not know.
I have never had elderberry.
Oh,
ever.
We're going to fix that.
Okay.
I love elderberries so much. And it's like we have this beautiful, I guess it's a bush, but it's pretty large. Elderberry tree / bush on our property. And I went out on the patio this morning, like so beautiful. I went out on the patio this morning. And I look over at my elderberry tree, and it's being like attacked by like multiple vines. I've totally like neglected it for like I don't know, like a year. And I was like, oh my God, I need to rescue it. And I got out there with the pruners, and I'm like cutting off all the vines and all this stuff. And And I was so like, I just had not really gotten outside to do stuff for a while because I've been sick and everything for a few weeks.
Well, it's been raining every weekend too.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
That's not all your fault.
Yeah. And I was really like, it's so good to get out in the garden. Like I just had not done that stuff in a while. And like, I feel like in organizing and leadership, it's like really important to do that stuff now and then because there are lessons in nature and it's easy to like overlook those. But I was like really, so we've had that tree. Well, the tree's been there since before us. We've had the house since 2006, so a while. And I was really kind of intrigued to see, like, once I was really like in this shrub, to see that like the middle of it, the way it grows, the like middle of the tree that was like the main part of the tree we moved in is totally like rotted out and dead. And what's like all around it is all of these new elderberry trees like coming up all around it. Then maybe we just like neglected it and it's not supposed to be like that. But it's like really healthy and thriving and there's like tons of flowers on it and it's doing really well. But it was really inspiring to kind of see how the plant is not pouring its resources into what's obsolete. You know, it's like really promoting the future without any nostalgia. You know what I mean? And I
feel like you're going somewhere with this.
Yeah,
I see it now.
Yeah, and I guess I've been thinking a lot about that and about, you know, our experiences in 2024 and what's going to happen in 2026. And I really hope the party can allow the future to happen, to allow the party to grow in lots of different places and lots of different directions and not feel so married to the past. And to I mean, we have a lot of young people in the party, and I think that's awesome. But if you look closely, so many of them are like just completely attached to a VIP or the way we're doing things right now. And what I would love is to see the party, you know, supporting like a big, expansive primary and a lot of people coming at it from all different, you know, parts and encouraging them to kind of lead their communities the way that they will, just like my elderberry tree. I am quite inspired by it today.
That's beautiful. It's like a deist. You look for all the answers in nature. And yeah.
Yeah, that's not really my beat usually, but that's what I'm bringing in today.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about work? You've got, you're stepping it up a little bit with Amazon, or Amazon has stepped it up, or the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has been a nutty week for me. So, yeah, of course, we're working on resisting Amazon and all that. And on Friday, right at the end of the day, someone texts me a picture of a mailer, a paper postcard mailer.
That brings back memories.
Oh, right?
Yes. This latest mailer came out with your face on it.
My first thought was, how dare you use my weapons against me?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, we got one of the biggest web companies in the world to like get a little paper postcard printed and they sent it out to residents in Milton and Essex Junction. We're not sure where else it went yet. BT Dubs, if you get one out there, please let me know. And so they sent out a mailer with some misleading claims about how they support small businesses. So we're going to be dealing with that this coming week. Now I feel like I'm really in a campaign. You know, it's like now,
yes,
you know, they like on. Shot across the bow. Yep, it's on. So that's kind of exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the section we started last time, we started a glossary section.
Glossary, yes.
Yeah, and I think we've decided to rebrand it the Glossary of Shame, because we shouldn't be using words that are inaccessible and hard to understand, and I shamefully did. Actually, what happened was you explained the word caucus, and did you call it problematic? Is that the word you use?
I don't know, but that is a thing I would say.
That word's a mess. Yeah, because it gets even worse, because you described it all the different ways, maybe, that it's used as a noun. And then I immediately, like 2 minutes later, used it as a verb.
You verbed it.
Yeah, because it can be used. So I think I said the Democrats caucused that evening.
Yes.
Yeah, or that afternoon.
Slid right by me, too.
Right. So it also means that you meet as a group.
Yep.
And so just wanted to call that out, that is another definition of caucus, means to meet in a group.
Yes, it's true. We're sorry to anyone who's confused about this word. Send us questions
deeply
if you
regretful
have
for using terminology. And we need another word other than caucus.
Yeah.
It is a word you see out there. I think Becca White used it last week in our interview.
Yeah.
So,
I think she used it in the way we usually use
yes,
it.
she used it the way you use it.
That's good,
Yeah.
at least.
I had never really used that word before until.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is like a bad influence of mine.
Yes. One of many.
Great. Yeah. Okay, good. So we've covered the glossary of shame for the moment. I'm sure there will be more.
We'll say something else today.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it was so fun to talk to Becca. Great guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you the thing that I regret not saying. One of my favorite outfits of Becca's, and it's on Instagram from last October-ish, is her door knocking outfit, which is a very practical outfit with lots of pockets and a fanny pack and a reflective vest to be safe.
Yeah.
And she wears it all with aplomb, and she puts it on piece by piece and explains what each thing does and where it came from. And it was great.
That is magical. I'm so glad you reminded me about that. I'm totally going to share that out during the primary next year.
Yeah, and I was actually door knocking at the time, so I was thinking about that practicality, but I was also nice to see that somebody else was out there with me, and solidarity, right? Little pick me up at that time, so that was good.
Yeah. Now, did you pull together a matching outfit? No.
No, but I did sort of feel like I needed more pockets. I had rubber bands, I had the literature.
So you can understand how women can barely survive without pockets, right? You know, none of our clothes have pockets.
Well, and she had, yes, well, because exercise clothes does not.
Not just that,
nothing has
it's
pockets,
like
so
dresses,
I kind of get a glimpse of that.
Like it's like a mass misogynistic thing by the textile industry.
Corinna carries a fanny. She's never liked a purse. That's just never been her style. But she's got a fanny pack, and
she's smart.
I don't pick on her for it.
No, you can't, because she can't help the fact that her clothes don't have pockets.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. So we have an interview coming up with Sarah Copeland-Hanses.
Yes, Secretary of State.
Episode. Yeah, we've got the election bill to talk about. There's always a lot going on with the Secretary of State's office, and I think a lot of people interact with it and deal with it, but they may deal with it in their capacity, like elections or business, and not know about the other things that the Secretary of State's office does.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I'm as you know, a big elections nerd, so that should be fun.
Yep.
Yay!
I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Okay, so that brings us to our hot topping of the week. And I am really excited about this topic. We've done a lot of really amazing legislative analysis. We've been in the legislative session. We talked about important bills, and I'm really excited about that. But I have had, over the course of my life as a Vermonter, my life here as a Vermonter, and my campaigns here, the question of what is a, quote, real Vermonter, end quote, has always been kind of present in my mind and something I've always kind of wanted to flesh out. And I'm excited to sort of have a chance to talk about that a little bit. So I used to work for the state of Vermont for a while. I made their maps. I was their GIS specialist. It's an amazing agency, like wonderful, incredible people who are so dedicated. So now and then, I'd be at my desk and, chatting with people about whatever. And I would get a little, oh, well, you don't get it because you're not a Vermonter. I'd be like, oh, well, I live in Burlington, and yeah, but you're not a real Vermonter. I'd be like, well, what does that mean exactly? And I'd be told, well, you have to have been here for 8 generations. And I got that very consistently. Have you heard that before?
8? I have not heard specifically 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right. So yeah, I had gotten that but it was also like, oh, you've got to have been here for a long time.
Did you ask for a citation? Like, can you show me your sources?
I really should have.
You should have.
I'm regretting that now.
That's the National Park Service told me that. Just always ask for a source.
Smart.
Yeah.
So smart.
Yeah.
It's funny because I even would say now and then, I was like, well, my kid was born here. And then oh, no, they're a New Yorker like you. And I was like, no, like, I think they're a Vermonter. And that like kind of set off this quest to find out, oh, what is a real Vermonter, right? And I used to get, when I was running campaigns, that term started to make me nervous. We never used it on our own campaigns because I didn't want anyone to feel like we were saying someone else was not a real Vermonter. Right. And sometimes it's not just in the positive, it's in the negative space, And so that's something I've always kind of tried to figure out. So in the process of exploring this, I put out a little question on social media and sent it to some of our friends, and I got some pretty interesting responses. Before we even get into those, I want to know, Andy, what do you think a real Vermonter
Well,
is?
I'm glad you reached out to people, because if you Google how to become a real Vermonter, you know what comes up? I expected like a humorous test. That's what I was kind of looking up for, because
Like lives on a dirt
were
road.
driving back from Montpelier once, and there was a frog on your windshield, and you pulled over and rescued it and said that should make me a real Vermonter.
Yeah.
And I said, I think you got to push a snapping turtle across the road with a 2x4,
Yeah.
and you'll be there. But then I was thinking, okay, we'll do a last lick section, and we'll come up with like a test to how to be a real Vermonter.
That would be good.
I thought, well, maybe it already exists, but if you put in how to become a real Vermonter in Google, you get how to become a realtor in Vermont.
Oh,
Different
sad.
thing. Yeah, different
Very
kind of
sad.
thing. Yeah. There wasn't really any kind of test there, so we should come up with one.
Oh, we totally should. I love it.
Yeah.
I did get a lot of like funny little like quips here and there. Yeah, like lives on a dirt road.
Sure.
And, doesn't pronounce their T's and
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I didn't realize that we don't do that. I went to Florida once, and I said something, and they said, "Are you from Vermont?" Which I didn't think I had an accent. I thought everybody else talks funny. But they knew it right away, and it must have been the T.
Yeah, I think that's the only tell that I've ever noticed.
Yeah, I thought we talked pretty normal in the northwest part of Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your question?
How would you define a real Vermonter?
A real Vermonter.
I can go first if you
Okay.
want.
No.
I've talked a lot.
I think like any relationship, I don't think it's time in. I don't think this is not a government job, right? This is, I think in any relationship, it's about shared values. And then over time, it becomes about shared experiences. And I think if you can hit that right combination, you've become a local. I've had the same experience you have, because I lived in Montana for 4 years, and they were experiencing a lot of people moving in from Texas and California with money, and there was deep resentment over that. So there was, who's a real Montanan, who isn't, and anybody east of the Mississippi was out as far as they were concerned. I think some of the shared experiences are like the storms that we have over the years, like if you remember the ice storm or the Valentine's Day storm. I think things like, having to drive through mud that's up to your axles and starts to take control of your car, and learning to be okay with being driven by mud rather than you driving it.
Oh, yeah.
I think, it's funny. I was thinking about, there was a truck got stuck in the notch the other day.
Right.
Right. We all know what that means. But if you weren't from Vermont, like that's an absurd sequence of words, right? Another truck got stuck in the notch yesterday. You have to know that there's this thing
These
called
are really
the notch,
good.
and that's the tight turns, and the trucks don't fit, and Google keeps sending them there, and we try to get Google not to. And we put up all these barricades, and people keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like going to the bank on Bennington Battle Day, and you have no idea why the doors are locked.
Yeah.
And it takes you a long time to remember it's Bennington Battle Day.
Real talk, my first few years in Vermont, I went to work on that day. Like I was a state employee,
Really?
and
Okay.
I didn't know. And I showed up to work.
Just you did. They didn't make
Just
everybody go.
me.
Yes.
And I felt like a doofus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some of the values, I think we've got great stewardship here in Vermont, like Green Up Day. Like there are places that I've lived where people just think nothing of throwing litter on the ground. Like they just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And we're here in Vermont, like going out and picking it up. Like
Yes.
nobody else is doing that.
I know that is
kind of
cool.
stuff. Yeah.
These are really good. So this is interesting because I had always seen it the other way. So you're looking at it from the shared values perspective.
You know what the first one I always thought of was, though?
What?
How people merge on the interstate when there's construction coming up.
That they don't use a zipper merge?
Yes.
It drives me crazy.
In Vermont, people see the merge sign and we work together and they merge and everybody just kind of breezes through. Whereas if you get outside of Vermont, people just go zipping down the lane as far as they can, jackknife in front of the crowd and back up the whole thing.
No, people don't use a zipper merge here.
What is a zipper merge?
Okay. So when the lane, this drives me crazy. When there's a lane closed and they're like, oh, there's a lane closed in like 1,000,000 miles. And everybody just immediately all goes to one lane. Whereas in New York, we go to the 2 lane. We use the 2 lanes for as long as we can. And then we alternate merging, like alternate cars merging. That's a zipper merge.
Yeah, that's not a Vermont thing.
I know, but I wish it was because that's a better use of the space.
How?
Because you're using 2
This is
lanes
not good
for as
podcast
much.
content.
of the time as possible. It is. This is important.
Okay.
Everybody should be using a zipper merge.
No, I think that backs things up because that
No,
waits
why
till the
would
last
you
minute.
narrow it to one lane for longer?
Because if you can merge, as soon as you can seamlessly merge, nobody has to slow down. Like if you can just pick your spot or slow down a little bit, let somebody in, and everybody's in one lane, they just zip right through. No. Whereas if you wait too long, that's where somebody has to slam on the brakes, and the whole thing backs up.
That's also an interesting perspective, but it's wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Being a total know-it-all.
Yeah, I mean,
it's key to being a real Vermonter.
And even more a podcaster, really, in a particular case.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this is so interesting. So you're all about the shared values and shared experiences perspective. To me, my concerns around it are around identity and around making people feel like they don't belong here. Because if you're living here and you're not a Vermonter, what are you?
Yeah.
Like, and are you entitled to the same rights and privileges as everyone else? To me, that's like a nativist, like tricky, like slippery slope.
Yeah, and I think you have to recognize behind that is some fear about what change will mean for a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, there's a tension there about, and I think affordability is a central piece of that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that native thought actually creates the problem. Like if you don't want any development here, and you don't want and the housing prices only go up.
Yep.
If you vote down your school budget, like families don't want to live here, and it fundamentally alters your town.
Yeah.
Like I think sometimes the reaction is what creates the thing that you don't want, not people coming from the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to fight though. It's interesting. You want to hear what some of our friends had to say about this?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay. Let's see. So one of the first ones I got here. Yeah. So I guess going back to what I was saying a second ago, it feels loaded to some people. And that's why I didn't like to use the term on my campaigns, because I was always afraid if we said, oh, so-and-so is a real Vermonter, it would actually put people like me, transplants, off and think, they don't like people like me who came here. And that's what I picked up on from a few friends of mine who responded a little bit. So my friend Noah Detzer, friend of the campaign, who did some of our campaign footage, he had a really interesting take. He said, so I recoil a bit at the term real Vermonter because even though I was born in Burlington, it's been used against me since my parents weren't born here. I think a, quote, real Vermonter shouldn't have to be someone geographically from here, but instead someone who represents the values we hold, which is kind of at the same time, it's your shared values argument.
Yep.
I really like that.
I hear you. No, I've got parents that aren't from here too.
Oh, right. Yeah, he also, he said it's needlessly divisive, which I really agree with, actually.
Yeah, I think the real part is really kind of divisive. Like, I don't think you need the real Vermonter versus Vermonter.
Just a Vermonter.
Yeah.
Do you like, I didn't say the T that time. I'm converting.
Look at that.
I know. Okay, and then...
Just pulling that frog off the windshield. It granted you a wish.
Oh my God.
They do that.
It was so cute. Like, it was so funny because I was pulling out along, what's the road that's directly in Montpelier that's directly parallel the road in front of the Capitol? The name is slipping my mind. But I was driving down there. Right? Yeah. And I was, and I was getting ready to get on the interstate. And, you're like looking straight out your windshield and there's these like tiny eyeballs like looking right back at me. And I was like, oh no, I really can't get on the interstate like that. And pulled over and had to deal with this little frog. He was very cute though.
Yeah, I bet. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I think that's part of the stewardship value. Yeah. Wouldn't you say, right?
I mean, I did.
Caring for animals, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did feel like, I have to care for this little frog. I can't just let him suffer and fly out into the interstate.
Good job, Joanna.
Thank you. Okay, so Becca Brown McKnight, who is one of my city councilors in Burlington, she's actually not. So I live in Ward 5 and District South. She's Ward 6, so she's the other ward in District South, and so I've sort of adopted her as one of my city councilors, but she's technically not, for the record. Episode
1, we cover what a ward in a district is.
Yeah, that's right. Becca's really great, though. Okay, and she said something kind of similar. She said, I think it would be best if we stopped using that term. It's not healthy and productive for us to have strict definitions for who belongs here. Anyone can be a Vermonter if they want to be. And she had a little bit of like a story, like, so this was common. A few people mentioned like stories about how they moved here and people, taunted them about not being a real Vermonter. And that just made me a little sad for them. That's like sort of that whole theme about not weaponizing it.
Yeah. It doesn't work too, I'll tell you, because we wanted to go back to Montana this summer for a hiking trip. And we went out there originally because it was affordable. And it is not even affordable for us to spend a week there. We actually changed to New Mexico because our flight got canceled. And we thought, well, we're just spending so much on a car rental and a hotel, and it's just like adding up so fast. And they've got mountains elsewhere. So it doesn't work. And I think if you can identify the values that you want, you can legislate and build policy around values that you want to promote in the state.
Yeah.
Just being mean to people does not work.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so my friend Laura Cooper, she had a totally different take, which is kind of the opposite of what we've been talking about for a minute, and I hadn't quite heard yet, and it was really interesting. She said, a real Vermonter to me is someone who not only grew up here, but is the child of two parents who grew up in Vermont as well,
Okay.
knocking us both off the list.
There you go. Time served.
Yeah, and she said, that's how I use the term. Even though my kids were born and raised here, I do not consider them real Vermonters since I'm from New York City. And I just thought that was really funny. I was like, wow, that's like, because everyone was sort of saying the opposite thing to me. And she was like, oh yeah, my kids aren't even real Vermonters. But I almost wonder if that's like more of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of response.
I think, yeah, a real Vermonter, the definition of a real Vermonter is whatever you are, right?
Yeah, maybe.
If you are 9 generations back, you have to be 9 generations back.
Yeah. So Becca White, who is Senator Becca White, who was just on the show last week, she had a really funny and different take. This totally threw me for a loop. It's a bit morbid, but I have long felt that a real Vermonter is someone who wants to end their days in Vermont. You may have come from another place or be from here originally and be somewhere else for a bit, but if you want to eventually die in the Green Mountains, you are a Vermonter.
Okay, I have a cemetery plot right down the road, so I'm in.
Wow, that's dark. That's pretty interesting, though, isn't it? It's like you're here. It's like, doesn't matter like what happened till now.
That's one of the things I had is
really
just want to be here. Like,
yeah.
If you've been here for 9 generations, but all you do is gripe, I don't consider you a real Vermonter. Like, you have to love this place and want to be here.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that. So one of the things that used to fascinate me about my job with the state, a lot of them really don't like winter.
That's crazy to me.
I know. And
Yes.
they kept like complaining about winter and the snow. And I was kind of like, why do you live in Vermont?
Yeah. Does it surprise you that it gets cold and snows in January? Like, it can't be unexpected.
I wonder if it is. I don't really totally get that. Having, like, being a little bit nomadic myself and coming from a people who are a little nomadic, to me, it's always like, if you really hate it, maybe you should move. But I do think, okay, if you've really been here for 8 generations and your family are like all over the state and this is all you've known, I guess even if you hate winter, that's enough to keep you here. I don't really know, having never had that, but it always kind of baffles me. And then I had a whole kind of separate set of answers that were more like yours about like values, and they were values driven. And so you're in some good company here. So the first one I have here is from my friend Val Carzello. Val lives in the South End. She actually ran for Senate a few years back. She's super cool. And Val said, a real Vermonter is someone who cares about our communities and loves Vermont so much they work to make it a place everyone can enjoy. Like, I love that so much because it's so much not about who you are or where you're from. It's about like wanting to be here, being here by choice. And
right.
That's like,
I had service on my list, and that's right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that line.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Yep.
I think my own definition is evolving in the course of this conversation. It's kind of fun. Okay. Another friend of the podcast, Thomas Renner, gave me a really great response. To me, quote, a real Vermonter is anyone who lives here, who loved Vermont for all it is, from its bigger towns to its smallest gores, someone who is dedicated to Vermont being the best state it can be.
So that's a theme, is the wanting to be here and loving the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are so good, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, that was Thomas. And then Charity Clark one of our good friends, the Attorney General.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. She was amazing. Okay. Charity said, anyone who lives here full-time or part-time and feels Vermont is their home. And she gave some cute emojis. And she said, I also think there's a Vermonter emeritus status, if you will, for people who grew up here regardless of where they live now. And I thought that was so cute because I totally have people like that in my life who they're like, oh yeah, so what's going on with this or that? Because they live in like Mass or wherever now. And they're like, they want like the latest on the whatever election or, they just feel their heart is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one.
That is a good one.
Charity. She's just so good. Okay. And another one of our friends, Ellie Beckett, she helped out with the campaign. She's one of my vice chairs at Chittenden County Dems. Yeah, we so appreciate everyone responding. It was so sweet. I was like, I just really didn't know it was going to happen. And
we got like 18 hours notice we gave them. So.
Yeah. Like such little notice. And people were like, I hope it's not too late. And everyone's like responding. I was like, oh my God. I just was tickled.
Yeah, Corinne thought your message was funny with the video and said, if you can respond like right away, because we're recording tomorrow.
Yeah. People were very cool about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ellie had a long but really excellent answer. She said, if it's not too late, to me, being a real Vermonter is about more than how many generations your family has lived here. It's about embodying a fiercely independent spirit. They are resourceful, self-sufficient, and hardworking. At the same time, a real Vermonter is deeply community-minded, always showing up for a friend or a neighbor in need. A real Vermonter is usually creative, cobbling together several revenue streams to make a living in a rural state without many natural workforce opportunities. I love that flag. And has several machines that look like Rube Goldberg contraptions after being patched together multiple times with whatever was available. Love that. Lastly, a real Vermonter has an appreciation for Vermont's natural beauty and feels a responsibility to protect and sustain it, even if it's a tiny frog on your windshield. Okay, I added that last part.
Yeah.
No, but it was so good. Like, I just thought, oh my God, she should run for something.
She hit a lot of mine too, especially with the independence. And I think it radiates out into storefronts and restaurants and the businesses that we support. We really value independent entrepreneurs in Vermont.
Yeah.
And we tend to not. The chain stores have worked their way in.
Yeah.
But there's still a space. There's places you go where it's just every 2 blocks is a repeat. It's, Chili's.
Yes,
it's
totally.
Just like all these chain stores just repeating after each other.
I mean, even parts of Manhattan look like that now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so lovely. I mean, one of the joys of working for Phoenix is like the tizzy people get into when I tell them I work there, because people just love supporting an independent bookstore. It's so magical.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you have other stuff on your list that we didn't hit?
Oh, let's see. For values here, I had schools, wrapping our schools into our community and viewing them as a pipeline for our community. And a very valid discussion that we're having right now, relevant to the current school consolidation discussions. Let's see. I think we covered all the ones on values, commonality of experience. I feel like unless you've just grabbed a group of strangers and organized them into an ad hoc committee to get your car out of a snowbank, that's a real common experience that a lot of us have had to do, approach strangers. If you go outside and you breathe in deep and your nostrils freeze and that's 0 degrees, that's kind of like we can all sympathize with that. Yeah. The going behind a tractor down a state highway.
Oh, yes.
Having to go 20 miles an hour.
These are so good.
Sugar on snow with a pickle. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Wait, with a pickle?
With a pickle. You haven't had that experience?
Wow.
Yeah, so you get the salty with the sweet.
Oh my God.
It's
I love both of those things, and I didn't know about combining them. And I'm pretty excited to try that, but I'll have to wait for a while.
Creamies, I think, are one of those commonality experiences that we have. Having Bernie Sanders as your senator is a really unique thing.
Yeah, that doesn't get old. Everyone's always asking about him,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, it makes you kind of a rock star to live in Vermont. Like, he's just always doing something that's drawing everybody's attention.
Totally.
Accepting that you have to entertain yourself. So there's not a lot of culture and entertainment in Vermont, and you've got to find your own things to do. Yeah,
it's like everyone here is a Gen Xer all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned the storms, but the different storms that we have throughout the years, I think those become... My grandparents came from New Jersey to Vermont, and they got this certificate, and it was framed on their wall above their bar. and it's one of the things I inherited from them. But it was like a shoveling certificate from 1979 because they'd gotten so much snow, and I think that meant a lot to them to have been like part of the winter of '79. That they had actually framed it and put it on their wall. That made them Vermonters, I think, in their mind, because they'd suffered through all that snow removal that year.
My jaw like literally dropped. I know that the listeners couldn't see that, but I'm amazed. Like, who issues said certificate?
It was the Burlington Free Press. You remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. I think it was like a joke. It might have just been a printout in the newspaper and they cut it out and framed it.
I mean, hats off to them. That is awesome. Yeah, that's a really good one. Wow. Nice. These are really good.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Well, I love it. This was such a good combo, and I feel like I understand people's perspective a little better about why we use it.
I think it's relevant to the conversation we have every other November when we talk about state legislators and state senators and
yeah. I think it's interesting. I still wonder, like, so when people get a mailer, like one of the things that sticks in my head about this term, is like, so when I was running Secretary of State race in 22, there was another statewide candidate, not in our race, but there was another statewide candidate running a big campaign, and they pushed a mailer saying, so-and-so is a real Vermonter. And I remember getting that and thinking, ooh.
Yeah.
And I still wonder, like, so, the problem with structuring these mailers is you can only fit like 10 words on them, right?
Right.
But like it would be so much better to be talking about these values and experiences instead of using a term that I do still think is really loaded and isolating.
Yeah, I run into that here, Native Islander versus
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think I'm the only person who's served since the 60s that actually grew up in the islands. For Grand Isle County, because often our representation is from Chittenden or Franklin.
Right. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. But, well, it's not all right, but we can't fix that today.
Yeah.
But, and it's just, so many people have moved in and it's kind of got the same thing as the real Vermonter. It's got a taint to it of nativism and exclusion of people.
Yeah.
So I've used it a couple times, I think, just trying it out, and it just never hits well.
Interesting.
Yep.
There is not any competition to be a real Burlingtonian, I don't think. I've never heard that. Although I will say there's often a lot of funny threads here and there about what's a real New Yorker. And it's usually like, well, in my time, anyway, it was like, have you ever picked up, the Sunday Times on the way home from going out Saturday night? Have you been mugged in the subway? Like all these kinds of like ridiculous things. But yeah.
That's commonality of experience, right?
Yes,
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. This is good. I'm not sure how I feel about the Sherm still, but I do feel like I understand. Like getting all these perspectives makes me more empathetic, at least for the goal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think for some folks using the term is inclusive. It's like you're saying, like, it's like, oh, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And that's really great. What's harmful is when it's exclusive and it's like, oh, you're not one of us.
Right. I think sometimes it's used in jest of like, you haven't experienced some of the things that Vermont has to offer, good and bad.
Yeah.
And you'll get it over time.
Yeah. And you should.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also used exclusionary to say like, you'll never fit in here. Your voice won't count. Like,
yeah, you don't want it to be weaponized.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you often hear people say, well, you came here because you wanted, you like what we have, and now you want to change everything back to the way it was for the place that you left.
Yes, totally. Well, my key takeaway from this segment is that I really need to experience sugar on snow with a pickle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. All right, now it's time for a new segment. We're not going to do last licks today. We're going to do one called The Scoop. We're just making it up at this point, and we have discovered that I have a hidden talent for creamy puns.
Yeah, you do.
Although you don't scoop creamies, but we're just going to let that.
Nobody needed to know that. I mean, they knew it technically, but, it's okay. It's creamy adjacent.
I feel I have to disclose
You have like guilt associated with that.
I guess.
Are you sure you're not Jewish?
I do. No, I'm not sure. I don't know what I am.
That's amazing. Yeah, so we're going to do this little mini segment in place of Last Licks. I think it's good because that will allow us to stay friends for a little longer because Last Licks have been getting kind of intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do have a big day coming up in the legislature.
Yeah.
So we thought we would preview some of that.
Yeah.
As
that's
well
the real
as,
reason. Yes.
back off of each other
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Yeah. It's all of that. So we're in this really interesting moment in the legislative session, which I've been calling legislative purgatory, where most of the legislators are home and wondering if they'll be going in or called in at any given moment before the veto session, which starts on the 16th and is getting stacked full of stuff.
Yeah. So that's coming up on the 16th. They have been doing, they've kept the session open, more or less. So,
right.
Yeah. There's a weird little, I meant to do a little bit of research on this, but I got a real thorough rundown on Senate rules and the Vermont Constitution from John Bloomer, who's the Secretary of the Senate before my session last year. And I forget what it is, but there's like a quirk. You just have to keep things open, running continuously. And so they gabble in every 3 days. They have to gabble in.
Yeah.
And so you can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
There is
It won't take long.
Won't take long. It was about 30 seconds. We saw, and like John Bloomer, who is the Secretary of the Senate, it says in the rules that if the President of the Senate isn't there, who's the Lieutenant Governor, and the Pro Tem isn't there, then the Secretary bangs it in and he hits the gavel, and then he holds a moment of silence.
Yep.
He was the only one standing in the room. I think that was a joke.
Yep.
And then he adjourned until Friday, and they just do that every 3 days to keep the whole thing live.
Yep. It's
Fascinating
weird.
YouTube.
Totally weird. We took a little video of one and we put it on our Blue Sky account. So if you want to, take the 30 seconds out of your life to witness it, you can.
And so the issue that everybody is, of course, waiting to come back on is the Ed bill. The conference committees are continuing to meet, trying to come to some resolution with the understanding that they'll have something to put on the table on June 16th.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, we were discussing this before we went on air, that we both arrange meetings and set agendas.
Yep.
And every once in a while, you're like, hey, let's just have a quick meeting on a Thursday. We've got this one issue we need to talk about.
Right.
And then everybody starts saying, well, can we do this? And can we
talk
add
about
that? And then
this?
before you know it, it's a full agenda.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's going on. So we have a couple of bills that have been vetoed. It's yet to be seen whether these will attempt to be overridden. S125, which allowed some judicial supervisors to unionize, has been vetoed. And then H91, which was meant to be the replacement for the motel hotel voucher program that we have, that would have transitioned some of this to nonprofit groups to set up more long-term shelters, was vetoed as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't imagine that there's the votes to override, but those are the vetoes.
Yeah, Republicans would have to join in to override at this point.
Yeah, that's how it goes now.
Yeah, and the election bill also we discussed, or we'll discuss in our next episode with Sarah Copeland-Hanses. We'll talk about the election bill and what's in it and what's not in it at this point. But that was held up, and there is hope that can be passed on June 16th as well.
Yeah, here's hoping that gets through. It's super important.
Yeah, a lot of necessary revisions to elections procedures. Things are happening all the time that require adjustments to election procedures and laws.
Yep, and you guys are going to hear all about it on episode 7. Thanks so much for listening. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcast and Spotify.